Okay, so lots of you are on different stages in your journey during your Mattersea time here. And but what I'm going to share this morning, I know for a fact that everybody faces and goes through stuff during Mattersea, because I've been there, got the T-shirt. And I can remember coming, this is a true story, I can remember coming to Mattersea, and my mum and dad-in-law were driving us up to Mattersea, and I can remember me saying to them, well, we're going to have somebody to clean our rooms, we're going to have somebody to clean our toilets, so I won't really have to do any housework or anything like that when I come to Mattersea, I'll just be studying. And Gray's mum said to me, I don't think that's actually going to happen. And I said, yeah, I'm sure, because when I did my nurse's training in London, and I can remember somebody would come in and clean our room and stuff, and all that type of thing. And I thought, oh, right. And the first job I had when I came to Mattersea was to clean the toilets. God has his way of working in us. And I can remember going through stuff, and you learn a lot of stuff. And I think the biggest impact for me in being in Mattersea, I learned so much from the Bible and different things. But the biggest thing for me was learning about me and God dealing with me. Because when you're in a community of people, day in, day out, you have to deal with situations and that person that you maybe not getting on with or whatever that is. But the more often than not, God is showing you, and things rise up in you and you think, I never knew that was there. Because I was a young Christian. I'd only been saved a year before when we came to Mattersea, and I thought everybody was going to walk on water. Boy, did I have a shock. That, the way everything is. And you all know it, because you all live together, and you have to get on with people. But I want to talk this morning about no matter what we do in life, wherever we go in life, storms will come and storms will go. And I don't know whether you're in a storm right now, or you are looking at life and thinking, oh, there's a storm about to happen, or whatever it is. But storms will come and storms will go. And stuff happens that cause us to either draw near to God, or pushes us away from God, or we put a wall up. It's our choice. It's not down to anything else that's going on around us. It's our choice whether we draw near to God or we pull away from God. And wherever we go in life, there's people. You're never going to get away from people. And the thing is, sometimes people just wind us up. Or is that just me? Like, they just wind us up, and they don't have to do anything. They just have to breathe sometimes. I think you're really annoying me this morning. And it's like, but you see, we've got to learn to cope with people. We've got to learn. You're in here to train as a leader. Now, wherever you go in life, whatever you do when you leave here, whether you go into secular work or go into church ministry, it doesn't matter where you are or what you are doing. We're all called to be leaders. Leadership is a choice. And I know some of you, may be going in and serving leaders or doing that, but you're still a leader. Because why? Because we are called, as soon as we give our heart to God, we have a responsibility to represent him well to the world. So we've got to start wearing the if you like, the mantle of leadership on our lives. And it doesn't start when you leave Mattersea. It starts when you're in Mattersea. It starts right now on your journey, as soon as you enter in. Because there's a tendency to think, when I get out, I'll be different. When I finish at the end of my 3 years, I'll start shaping that area, and I'll sort that out then. But God is saying, no, now is the time to sort that out. Whatever's going on in your life, now's the time to look at it and think, okay, I need help. Accountability is honestly the best thing for you. It's the horriblest thing, but it's the best thing for us. Accountability, about being accountable to someone who is there alongside us on our journey, so that if we mess up, we go to them all, I need you to help. I need you to sit on me right now. And the thing is, you see, being vulnerable sometimes is the hardest thing we can do. But when you find that someone, I'm not saying by being vulnerable and you're an open book and you tell everybody in Mattersea all your problems. But you've got to have at least 2 people, or maybe 3 people, that you have got a network of people that you can trust with your life, that you can be vulnerable with and open with, so that you all protect each other. All of you, some of this stuff is like, oh yeah, you're teaching us to suck eggs now. I know all about this type of thing. But sometimes we forget it, don't we? Sometimes we get on in life and we're in stuff and we forget the simplest of things that can actually help us in life. And 1,000 years ago, or thousands of years ago in the Bible, there was a group of guys, and they had a choice to make in their life, and they had to choose whether they were going to go through the fiery furnace or they were going to walk away from the fiery furnace. And you all know, because you're Bible students, it's Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and they had a choice to make in their life, whether they looked at the fiery furnace and thought, wow, I don't know if I can go in there, whether they were going to compromise on their values, compromise on their convictions, and compromise on their God. And whenever we are facing a storm or in a storm, the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And he wants to take what we value and what our convictions, he wants to crush all those within us. And the thing is, you see, the easy option is to maybe, oh, no one's going to know, I'll just compromise you, whatever that is. And maybe some of you, one of you, maybe one or two, I don't know, here this morning, and already you're thinking of compromising on something. God is speaking to you right now, and God says, do not compromise the very thing I have placed in your heart, and what God has spoken to you before, long ago. Keep true to the convictions in your heart, true to the values in your heart. And you see, in situations sometimes we face, and we're in the fiery furnace, or we're about to face the fiery furnace, what God is looking for people to stand. People to stand strong and to trust him. You see, God, we heard it this morning, God is the Alpha and the Omega. He knows the beginning and the end. He knows the other side of the fiery furnace. He's just not revealed it to you yet. And we've got to trust him. We've got to trust in him. We've got to lean into him, and we've got to rely on him totally with our lives. You see, whether God, the thing is, what I love about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, when they were going in the fiery furnace, they said, whether God rescues us or not, we will stand firm. We will not waver. We will not compromise. We are going into this fire. And the thing is, they literally didn't know whether they were going to come out of this fire. How many of us would walk through a fire? Literally walk, because they literally had to walk into this fiery furnace. How many of us? Check your spirit. Ask, and just deep down, would I go and walk into this fire knowing that I may not come out of it? There's a situation sometimes that we have to go through, and the easy option, and you can get away with it, is to go a different way. But if we walk through the fire and we keep going in the fire, when you come out the other end, you will be in a far greater place than you would ever be if you had turned the corner and gone on a different path. So many people I watched over the years that have just not gone the hard way, they've gone the easy way, and I don't even know where they are, what they're doing in life now. Just stick the path, stay the path that God has called you. When you are called, you cannot walk away. And do we trust God? Do we love and trust him enough that he's going to take us? Because when he does, he takes us through with dignity and grace. And you go through, when you trust him and you lean on him, he will take you through. And when I was thinking about a fire, I went and checked the fire department and see what they said about a fire. And one of the things that they say, the guidelines that they say, there are 3 things that we have to do, and I want to talk about them this morning. And the 3 things that they say that we have to do is, 1, we have to stop. 2, we have to drop. And 3, we have to roll. And when I was thinking about this, I thought to myself, okay, what does this mean? So when you go in a fire, if you're in a fire, straight away your clothes are going to catch fire, your hair is going to go on fire. But the reason they tell us to stop is that we've got to look around and review the situation. So if you're in a fiery furnace right now, or maybe next week you're going to end up in one, I don't know. But I tell you this, when you're in a tough time, when you're in a storm or whatever it is, the first thing that we have to do is stop and review the situation. You have to look and know where the safe zones are to be. So when you're in your trials, in your tough times, where's the safe place for you to go? Where's a safe haven for you to walk to? Who are the people in your world that are going to add to your world, not take away from your world? And sometimes, who are the people in your world that are going to say, the uncomfortable things. Because very often we want to go to people that we want to hear what we want to hear. But God is saying, I don't need you to go to those people. I want you to go to people who are going to say the hard things to you. Because it's in the hard things that is going to make you. You see, God puts us in places to make us more like him. That's why we're in the fire. That's why we have to go through fires on a regular basis, because we become complacent. And I've got this theory, and I talk about it with our kids, and I look at our country and where everything is, and I look at other countries and the persecution that is on other countries, and I look at those Christians, and I think, wow, I want a life like them. But with a life like that comes persecution. And sometimes we hate our fires. We mourn about stuff, and I think you need to look across. When I think about me, I think you need to look at other people's lives. We've got nothing to mourn about. But it's in persecution that God brings something beautiful out of us. That God brings something out. And when we focus on him and we stick with the right people, God can use us in incredible ways when we go through stuff. So we've got to stop. We've got to review the fire. We've got to take stock of the situation. And the more we know about the fire, the better off we are. And when we realize that God doesn't send us there to destroy us, but to develop us, it can change our entire outlook of the fire that we're in. It's like, okay, God, you're obviously wanting to teach me something here. You know, sometimes have you prayed the prayer, Lord, help me learn this quick. Please help me learn this quick. And the thing is, when you're in those things and you look at other people and maybe they are not in a fiery furnace and everything's bright and breezy, you can't compare yourself to someone else's journey. You can only look and be in your journey. Because when you start living someone else's journey, you're not being the real to yourself. And you're not being real to the people around you. So you cannot compare to anybody else. You've got to think, okay, this is where I'm at right now. God, I need you more than ever. And you've got to just throw yourself onto God. And, you know, in John 16, verse 33, it says this. And I think it's going to come up yet. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. God has already overcome your situation. He just wants you to learn a few things in the moment. And God is never on time, is he? He's never on time. He's always late. God, why are you late? He's obviously on time. I'm just being, you're very serious. You are very serious. I need you to be a bit more, shout and laugh and things. The thing is, God is always late on our schedule. And why is that? Because we haven't caught up to God's schedule. And we are a work in progress. And that's why we wonder where God is. And God says, I'm here. You just got to keep walking towards me. Just keep coming towards me. I'm here. And every step of the way, you will learn something different. And in Jeremiah 29:11, we all know this verse. The plans I have for you are not to harm you, but to prosper and give you a hope and a future. And hope is an incredible thing. Hope is having an expectancy. And the thing is, if you do not believe you have a hope in your fire, you will never expect God to do something. So while you're in your fire, you've got to have a hope. You've got to have something that you're clinging on to. You've got to look around in that fire and beyond that fire. And the thing is, you see, what are you seeing right now? What are you seeing for your life right now? Are you seeing where you're at? Are you seeing where now is, or are you seeing what God sees? And we're never going to see what God sees until we connect to him. And the thing is, we've got to understand that we need to start expecting on this side, not when we're just about here. We've got to start expecting at the beginning of our fire. And God, why? Because God wants us to step on in faith. God wants to see our faith rise. Because why? Faith pleases God. It says in the Bible, that's the only thing that pleases God is our faith. So he wants to bring us to that place of faith. And you see, the next thing is we've got to drop. What does drop mean? Drop means we've got to submit in the fire. So first off, we've stopped, we're reviewing the situation, we're looking, we're needing to find where our safe place should be. We've got to go to that person and just stick to them. But then we've got to drop. We've got to submit in the fire. We've got to surrender the fire to God. I have been in situations where I'm in a fiery furnace or a storm, whatever you want to call it, and I have been in there and I have not submitted anything to God because in my thinking God's never going to come up here because everything seems impossible. Have you ever been where you were trying to take control of stuff and you work this way and you work that, or if I do that, this will happen, and if I go to this person and drop this thought there, that will happen, and if I, put this here, or I go and do this job there, then they will see me here in ministry. If I do this, then people will go, oh, there she is, and they'll see you. But you see, God wants us to submit. Right now in your life, you may be leaving soon at the end of June, and you've got nowhere to go. What is God saying? Just submit to me. Just submit to me and don't worry about it, because don't push doors open. God is already on with whatever he's doing to get you where he wants you to be. There's no pressure in you having to push, because when you push a door down, you can go somewhere where you're not meant to be and you will miss the calling on your life. The thing is, God knows. And Matt left Mattersea, and he was a year where he just went back to his old church, didn't know what he wanted to do, didn't know where God was going to lead him. And a year later, he's now walking in his destiny. There's a pressure on us when we leave Mattersea that we've got to have something. And then someone else, I'm going so-and-so. And, oh, yeah, and I'm going so-and-so. And you're standing here thinking, well, I ain't going anywhere. And there's another thing I want to say, because I've noticed this. That in our church, we believe in raising up leaders, and we've got a load of young leaders coming up. And there's a young man in our church, and we were looking at youth and different things, and Josh had different people on his mind, on his radar, people that we could see on his radar, thinking maybe them, maybe them, maybe them. Then all of a sudden, out of the blue, a young man who was grown up in our church wasn't seen, he was hidden. And all of a sudden, he's come out of the woodwork. And he is the most incredible leader. And he's come from nowhere. Not nowhere, he's come from our church. But we never thought anything would happen. We never looked at it because we never saw it. But you see, God knows. God knows who you are, where you are on your journey. He knows the right place he wants to connect you to. So do not worry. Joseph was hidden for years and years. I'm not saying you're going to be hidden for years and years. But Joseph was hidden. And it's in those hidden moments is what's going on in here that God is preparing us for what he's got around the corner. So do not worry. Do not panic about that you've got nothing. In fact, celebrate the fact that you have nothing. Celebrate it. This is great. God's not told me anything, but you know what? It's because there's something great around the corner. And that's what you got to do. Start speaking up. Start speaking words of life over your situation, and start speaking up and being positive about it. And just love the fact, if you leave here and you've got nowhere to go, enjoy it. Love the fact, because God has got something incredible. And you see, when you drop in the fire, Zechariah 13 verse 9 says this. And you submit to God. It says, I'll deliver the surviving third to the refining fires. I'll refine them as silver is refined. Test them for purity as gold is tested. Then they'll pray to me by name, and I'll answer them personally. I'll say, that's my people. They'll say, God, my God. You see, God is purifying us in the fire. And the hotter it is, the better it is for us. You don't like it when you're in it. I have been through some fires in my life, and I've wanted to walk away. I've said over the years to Gray, let's just get a normal job. Let's get a normal job and just turn up whenever we want to turn up. We don't have to turn up if we don't want to turn up. But you just can't. When you're called, you're called. And the thing is, it's not about your life. It's about the lives who are following you behind you. And every single one of you are in a world where you are influencing that world. And that's why leadership is a choice. And you have to choose whether you're going to own your leadership and take control of your leadership. Some of you are young and you're not married. One day you'll have kids and your kids are following you. And you've got to live life well. And I can remember an instance for me when one of our neighbours, and she was a problem. All our kids were younger then, and Josh was our eldest, and he was 12. And she was a right nightmare, and she'd cause problems, and her young girls were friendly with my youngest daughter, and it was always, if they fall out, the mother would fall out with me. You know, kids, they all fall out, don't they? But the mother would fall out with me, and I was like this, I don't know, to her. I was like the biggest enemy on the street. And so she'd be horrible to me, and then she'd be horrible to Kira, and all this type of thing. And I can remember sitting in our house and drawing the curtains in the day, because I never wanted to see her. She'd walk past, strutting back for the window, and Kira would be upset, I'd be upset, thinking, oh, I can't stand it. And we had a big event in Doncaster, in the Civic Theatre it was then, and Mark Ritchie was coming to do the Tale of Three Journeys. And in the back of my mind, I thought, oh, maybe I need to ask her to come. I'm thinking, oh, it's impossible. She hates me. I can't ask her. And I just sort of didn't tell anybody, because I thought maybe I'm one of the gets to ask her, so I won't tell anybody. And I just get on with life and stuff. And then this particular night, in the early hours of the morning, it must have been about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, Josh comes storming into our room. Mum. I thought something had happened. He said, God just woke me up and said that you've got to ask Alison to come to the Tale of Three Journeys. I thought to myself, oh my goodness, God, why did you tell him? Why did you tell him? Because the thing is, there's a responsibility on my life now. Because I want my kids to love God, serve God, be leaders in their own right. But if I'm not a leader in my own right, they're never going to be leaders in their own right. So I have to take you on this journey a minute. And I started thinking, oh, God, I've got to do this. I've got the card and everything. The kids went all off to school, and I'm sitting in the house, and I'm thinking, okay, God, I'm speaking in tongues for a half hour, thinking, I can't do this. And I thought, I've got to do it. Anyway, I walk around to the house, and I'm standing outside the front door, and I'm thinking, please, Lord, let her not be in. And I can just say, I've been, she's not in. And so I knock the door, and she opens the door. You've got to remember, this woman hates me at this point. And I went, hi. She went, hello. And I said, oh, hi, Alison. I've just wanted to invite you somewhere. She knew we were Christians and we were pastoring a church and everything. And we've just got this event coming up in Doncaster. And there's a Scottish comedian come in. And because, Graham's Scottish, I just thought you'd be interested in coming. I'd love you to come with us to hear him if you can. And she looked at me, and she was almost like, who is this woman? She said, oh, Del, I'd love to come. She just changed like that. You see, when we change and we submit to God in our fire, God will do miracles. He will. He's already been there, prepared a heart, got her ready for me when I knocked that door. So we've got to submit to God in the fire. We've got to submit and just understand that he's in control of all things. This situation looks impossible. In the natural eye, it's like, this is like ridiculous. But you see, God is a rule breaker. And you see, the rule breakers live in the unseen world. Jesus broke every rule possible. He walked on water, for goodness sake. That's impossible. But he's a rule breaker. And we're called to be rule breakers in our lives. And you see, when we're going to lead people, we've got to break the rules. And breaking the rules is submitting to God and taking a hold of who we are created to be, and stand with the authority from heaven that is placed on our lives. We are anointed. We are called to lead in this world. We are called, whatever that is, wherever we go in life, we are called to lead in this world and to rise up and own who we are. So, and the thing is, you see, we walk in God's grace when we submit. When we submit, we're walking in God's grace. And the third thing is, we're called to roll. And what I mean by roll, we've got to overcome the fire. And the only way we're going to overcome the fire is if we roll with the punches. So in a fire, you're going to be punched this way, you're going to be punched that way, and you're going to be like, I don't know whether I'm coming or whether I'm going. I don't know how on earth, the way forward, I've just got to keep on walking. I can't see where I'm going. I can't see the outcome. It's impossible. I don't know what you're doing, God, but I don't see how you're going to work this situation out. I really don't know what's going to come at the end of it. But the thing is, you see, we've got to roll in the presence of God. When you get in the presence of God, there was something a couple of weeks ago going on in my world, and I had to get up and preach and in church. And I knew if I didn't get myself sorted, I would preach from a wrong spirit. You see, we've got massive responsibilities on our lives. And we've got to spend time in the presence of God. And I cried out to God all week long thinking, God, when I get up there, it's got to be you. I don't want it to be me. It's got to be you. And you see, you've got to push in. I cried all week thinking this is impossible. I was even thinking, oh, Gray will have to cover it. I can't do it. Gray's going to have to cover it. And it's like, but no, God says, no, you have to deal with your heart. You've got to deal with what's going on in you. And when you deal with that, God then comes in supernaturally. And some of you right now have got to deal with your heart. Some of you have got to get to God in the presence of God, and you've got to just purely seek him and find him. And it may take you a day, it may take you 2 days, but he just wants you to submit, and he wants you to roll in his presence. And you see, when you roll in his presence, what does it mean when you're rolling? You're rolling in the fire, where the fire department. Roll means you're coming under the smoke zone and you're rolling on the floor to put the fire out. And when you're rolling in the presence of God, the fire's going out in our hearts. The fire's not like a fire anymore, because when you roll in the presence of God, the fire seems all of a sudden you're starting to see clearly. All of a sudden, you see, a couple of weeks ago, all of a sudden I was walking around my house like music blasting, worshiping God, but all of a sudden I saw things differently. I saw the situation differently. I saw it from on high, not on below. And you see, the enemy it was under my feet. He wasn't in control of me anymore. He was under my feet. And there may be voices in your head right now, and they're not God's, they're the enemy's. You've got to start rolling in God's presence and start renewing your mind. Start thinking differently. Start speaking different words over your life. And get the word of God and start speaking scriptures over your life and see that God is for you 110%. And if he is for you, there's nothing, no weapon formed against you to prosper, and no tongue that is raised will ever stand when you are giving God the priority in your life, no matter what you do. And then the other thing is you need to roll in the provision of God. You see, no end of times in my life when I've lacked provision for stuff, and I've gone to God, and the provision that has come has been incredible. Over the years, loads and loads of stuff. I can remember in the early days of our ministry, when we left Mattersey, and we had no money, and we had 2 kids. And it's the simple things. God doesn't complicate life. He doesn't complicate life. It's just like, he's our Father. I can remember we didn't have... We're just about to give birth to Sam, and I didn't have anywhere to put his clothes. Now, you're probably thinking that's silly, but it was a big deal for me. This was a big deal. I didn't have somewhere to put his clothes. And I was just by the kitchen sink washing the dishes, and I go, oh, Lord, I just need a chest of drawers. So all I need is a chest of drawers. Please can I have a chest of drawers? Honestly, the day after, there was somebody knocking our door saying, Del, I've got a chest of drawers I'm getting rid of. Would you like it? I love it, thank you. And the key was secondhand, but it was like brand new to me. It was like, this was my miracle. And another time our hoover broke, and I went to the sink. I didn't go literally, oh, my prayer thing is the sink. It just happened to be I'm at the sink. And I'm praying to God, I need the hoover, because we used to have life group coming around our house all the time, and I wanted everything to be nice and stuff. So the next 3 days, 4 days, or wherever, somebody comes again, Dal, I'm having a new hoover. Do you want my hoover? Yes. Another time when we were going to buy our house, we were leaving Retford, because we rented a house the last year or so in Retford, and we were leaving that rented house, and we were going to buy in Barnsley. And I can remember we had no money whatsoever. And we're thinking, how on earth are we going to do this? We've got no money. We're just about to have a second baby, and we're going into ministry. We have no house. And Gray and I just prayed. We didn't tell a single soul. And we'd been in Mattersey in our last year. We were pastoring the church. So we would travel over in our last year of Mattersey. And so they knew us and stuff. But we didn't tell anybody about this. And we just prayed and we prayed. And we saw a house that we liked and we were going to buy. But we thought, it was impossible. We can't buy it. We haven't got a deposit to put down. And we prayed and prayed and prayed. And that Saturday we went in and we told them that we wanted to buy the house, and we just went home the night thinking, okay, God, we've told them we want to buy the house, but we have no money and we've got to go in Monday morning. And Sunday morning we went in, and somebody in our congregation at the end of the meeting gave us an envelope, and you don't like to open an envelope in front of people, so you put it in your pocket thinking, I can't wait to get in the car. We all do it. So you put it in your pocket. Oh, thank you. They said, oh, they've just sold their property and they just wanted to sow something in our life. Well, obviously they didn't know the prayer we'd prayed the night before. We got in the car. It was to the penny for the deposit for our house. You see, God, you've got to roll with the provision of God. You've got to trust God more than anything. Some of you are leaving here. You don't know where you're going. You don't know what you're going to do, your finances. Some of you, even next year, you think you don't know how you're going to pay for your finances. I'm telling you, God is in control. I'm telling you, you've got to get in the presence of God. You've got to start declaring his word over your life. You've got to roll with his provision, and you will be blown away about what God will do in your life. Absolutely blown away about what he'll do. And the other thing you've got to do is when you roll in his presence, you roll in his provision, you've got to roll, because all of a sudden as you roll in, the power of God will come on your life like never before. And you will just be walking, and people will be looking at your life and thinking, whoa, what's going on in your world? And they'll start to see the God in you that they've never seen before. And that's what God wants to do with each and every one of us. He wants to take us from one fire to the other fire to the other fire. And it's in the fires that God gets bigger inside us. And you see, what is God doing? He's getting us ready for what the calling he's placing on our lives. Every time we go through stuff is to create bigger space inside, to grow our capacity for the people that we're going to be influencing. Your world is going to get bigger and bigger. Your world of influence, I'm telling you now, when you trust God and you give everything to him, he will be throwing people at you, because he knows that you will influence them for good and not for bad. And you've got to stand tall. You've got to own who you are in God. And you see, Romans 10:11 says this in the Amplified Version. The scripture says, no man who believes in him, who adheres to, relies on, and trusts in him will ever be put to shame or be disappointed. I'm telling you, when you look to heaven, in every decision that you make, you keep your focus, you stop, you review the fire, you look, where's your safe place, who do you go to, who do you share with, who is going to be your armor bearer. You stop and take stock of the fire. Then you've got to drop, you've got to submit in the fire. And when you submit in the fire, that's when God starts working on us. That's when God starts doing something in us. And because we've submitted in the fire, we're able to roll. Because what submit means to bow down. So you're already in the place where you can roll in his presence now. You can roll in his provision now. And you can roll in the power of heaven that comes on your life. I'm telling you, I'm not saying this for the sake of saying it. I've seen it over and over and over and over, not only in my life, in loads of people's lives, where God has come through in the fire like no one could ever bring you through. I don't know how people cope without God. Because you see, when you go in the fire, there's something beautiful about God. You get to know him more and more on a daily basis. And God is so amazing. He's so divine. And I just get excited. I just love life. I love what God is doing in people's lives. But we have got to take ownership. Don't think that it's someone else's responsibility. It is your responsibility. So let's take ownership of our lives. Know that we are called to lead wherever that is going to be. We are called to be responsible as leaders in God's kingdom for his glory, not our glory, but for his glory. And I know that when you leave this place, if you do these things, I'm telling you, you will be such a blessing to so many people that they will be blown away that the God in your life.